The stars outside the viewport of the human ship glimmered like tiny fires against the black canvas of space. Lieutenant Aaron Hale pressed his forehead against the glass, watching the alien world below grow larger with every passing second. The mission had gone wrong, far worse than anyone had anticipated. A convoy carrying the princess of the Andarian Empire had been attacked by unknown assailants. Explosions lit up the atmosphere in bright streaks of green and gold, each one tearing at the protective shields of the ships. Aaron's own vessel had taken a hit early on, its engines failing, leaving him drifting helplessly toward the planet's surface. He could have steered away, saved himself, and called for reinforcements. Every instinct in him screamed to run. Every protocol in the human military manuals said the same thing: survive. But he could not. Not while the princess, young, innocent, and unaware of the danger, was trapped in the chaos below. The humans were known across the galaxy as fragile creatures. They were not strong like the Andarians, nor fast like the Juraxians, nor intelligent in the way the Mechlins were. They were weak, short-lived, and surprisingly mortal. Yet there was something else, something no species could measure: courage. And Aaron had it in abundance. He activated the emergency thrusters and guided the crippled ship toward the surface. The convoy's alarms screamed in the comm system, and alien soldiers were shouting orders he could barely understand. Sparks flew from the hull as another attack struck nearby. A smaller ship, carrying the princess, was caught in a firestorm. She had no idea what awaited her. Aaron knew he had only one chance. With the precision of someone who had faced impossible odds before, Aaron ejected from the failing ship just above the planet's surface. He could see the princess trapped behind a barricade of alien machinery. The attackers were closing in, their weapons glowing with strange energy that could tear through metal in seconds. Humans had no shields, no armor that could withstand that fire. But Aaron did not hesitate. He ran. The world beneath him was unlike any he had ever seen. Its sky shimmered with a pale turquoise glow, and floating islands hovered above endless oceans of liquid crystal. Towering spires of alien architecture gleamed in the sunlight, but there was no beauty for him now, only urgency. He had to reach her before it was too late. He dove behind a ruined wall as plasma bolts streaked past him. The heat singed his skin, even through the thin suit he wore. Every step was agony. A sharp pain shot through his leg as debris fell from above, but he kept moving. Humans were fragile, yes, but their persistence, their will to keep moving when everything screamed stop, was something no alien could truly understand. Finally, he reached her. The princess was pale, trembling, and frightened, her eyes wide as she looked at him. "Lieutenant Hale," she whispered, I thought I would die." Aaron gave a brief smile, though his lips were cracked and his body screamed in protest. "Not today, princess. Not while I'm still standing." With careful movements, he helped her over the wreckage. Every step was slow, every movement a test of endurance. They reached a transport pod, barely functional after the attacks. Aaron knew it was not enough to get her out alone. The attackers were closing in, and soon, even the pod would not protect them. He made a decision that would define the rest of his life or the rest of his death. "Go," he said. "Get inside. Launch without me." The princess shook her head. "No, I will not leave you." Aaron's hand rested on hers. "It's the only way. You are the future of your people. You have to survive." Her eyes filled with tears, but she obeyed. The pod hummed as it powered up, lifting slightly off the ground. Aaron stood in the open, exposing himself to the enemy fire. He could feel the heat of plasma striking near him, hear the screams of machines collapsing under the impact. Every human instinct screamed at him to take cover to survive. But he did not. He could not. He activated the final defense system of the transport pod remotely. A barrier formed around the princess, holding the attackers at bay long enough for her to escape. Then he stumbled back, his body broken, his strength failing. The ground beneath him shook with explosions. Dust rose in clouds, and the sound of destruction filled the air. Aaron fell to his knees, every breath a sharp stab in his chest. He had done it. He had saved her. But the cost was written across his body, etched in the pain that left him gasping for life. From above, a shadow fell across the battlefield. The alien queen had arrived. She was a being of immense power, her presence commanding respect and fear from everyone around. Soldiers lowered their weapons, whispers of her name filling the air. She was told the human was dying, that he had risked everything for a creature not of his species. A murmur ran through the alien ranks. Death was sacred among them. No one interfered with it, not even the queen. To allow a being to die was a part of the natural order. Yet here standing before her was a human, a creature weak, short-lived and mortal, who had defied every law of nature and risked his life for another. The queen's gaze fell on him. She studied the broken human, his labored breathing, his trembling hands, and the stubborn fire in his eyes. The soldiers around her waited, expecting her command to be simple: let him die. But she did something no one expected. "Bring him to me," she said. Her voice was calm, but it carried a weight that silenced the battlefield. "He will not die today." The soldiers hesitated. The queen's laws were clear. No outsider, no human had ever been given such mercy, yet she was resolute. They obeyed, lifting Aaron carefully, mindful of his injuries. The human's mind was foggy, his senses dimming, but a strange warmth spread through him. Not hope, not yet, but something like awe. As he was carried toward the queen's chamber, he could hear whispers from the soldiers, the princess, even the winds themselves. They spoke of a species that was fragile, mortal, and yet somehow capable of the greatest courage. And for the first time, Aaron felt that what he had done, what humans did every day in the quiet, unseen corners of the galaxy, was understood. The queen's chamber was enormous, with walls that seemed to shimmer with the essence of the world itself. Strange, alien lights danced across the surfaces, reflecting off smooth surfaces and creating an otherworldly glow. Aaron was placed on a soft platform, and the queen approached, her eyes studying him as though reading every memory, every thought, every intention. "You risked everything for another," she said softly. "Your species is weak, yet you carry a strength none of us possess. How can you choose to die for others?" Aaron tried to speak, but his lips were dry and his voice was barely a whisper. "It's what humans do," he managed. "We protect each other even if it kills us." The queen nodded slowly. Her expression softened, but there was a shadow of worry in her eyes. "Then you will live," she declared. "Not because your body is strong, but because your spirit is worth saving. And I will not allow death to claim you, not now, not ever if I can prevent it." Aaron felt a strange warmth, a pulse that seemed to flow into him from the chamber itself. Pain still lanced through his body, but it was joined by something new: possibility, hope, and an understanding that perhaps, just perhaps, he had done more than save the princess. He had also begun to save the perception of his species. Somewhere deep inside, the human mind recognizes what few others do. Survival is not merely in strength or skill, but in will. Aaron had shown that will, and the galaxy, beginning with the most powerful queen he had ever seen, had taken notice. As his eyelids grew heavy, he could only hope that the princess was safe, that his actions had meaning, and that perhaps humans were more than what others thought them to be. And with that thought, Lieutenant Aaron Hale slipped into a fragile, fleeting unconsciousness, still alive, still breathing, and for the first time truly recognized. The chamber was silent, except for the faint hum of alien machinery that stretched across the room like veins of light. Lieutenant Aaron Hale lay on the soft platform, his breathing shallow and uneven. Every inch of his body ached. The human's muscles twitched involuntarily, and a thin sheen of sweat covered his face. But he was alive, something that by all rules and expectations should have been impossible. The queen stood over him, tall and imposing. Her eyes were like liquid gold, reflecting both curiosity and a strange reverence. She had lived for centuries, and her species had seen countless lives rise and fall. Death was sacred to them, a natural and irreversible event. No being, no matter how heroic, had ever been spared once the hands of fate had closed around them. And yet here was a human, fragile, mortal, and beaten, who had risked everything for another, and survived for now. The queen's advisors whispered among themselves, voices hushed. They knew their queen's decision violated every law of the Andarian Empire. To interfere with death was forbidden. Even the most minor act of defiance would have condemned the queen's throne. Yet she did not flinch. This species, humans, she murmured to herself, more to hear the sound than to speak to anyone else. They have no shields, no armor, no natural defenses, and yet they defy death itself with courage. Why? A young officer approached nervously. Your Majesty, the laws, our laws, do not allow intervention. If he dies, it is the natural order. The queen turned, her expression unreadable but her voice calm and firm. And yet he did not hesitate to intervene in the lives of others. He chose to face death willingly for another. That choice, that will, it is stronger than the laws themselves. Bring him to the healing chamber. The officer hesitated, but the queen's gaze was unwavering. The command was absolute. Aaron was carried carefully through corridors that glimmered with alien energy. Everywhere they passed, the walls seemed alive, shimmering with strange lights that pulsed like the heartbeat of the planet. Aaron's mind floated in and out of consciousness. The pain was constant, but beneath it was a sense of something extraordinary: survival. Finally, they reached a vast chamber, its walls lined with crystalline structures that hummed with power. At the center stood a device unlike any Aaron had ever seen. It glowed with a soft, blue light that seemed to hum in resonance with his own heartbeat. "This is the healer," the queen explained. Her voice echoed across the chamber, carrying authority and awe. "It can mend flesh, repair broken bones, and restore life itself, but it is forbidden. No outsider may touch it. The risk is immense. Even a queen cannot fully control it." Aaron tried to speak, but his throat was dry, his voice barely audible. I don't deserve this." The queen shook her head. "Deserve has nothing to do with it, human. Strength is not always measured in muscle or skill. You have earned survival by your will alone." The healing process began slowly. The crystalline device extended thin, delicate filaments toward Aaron's body, emitting gentle pulses of light. Pain surged through him as his broken bones realigned, wounds closed and bruises faded. Each pulse felt like electricity, yet also warmth, as if life itself was being woven back into him. The human mind is not used to such power. Aaron's memories flickered in and out: Earth, his family, training, battles, and quiet moments of ordinary life all blended together. But through it all he clung to one thought: the princess was safe. Everything else was secondary. The queen observed silently, fascinated. She had studied many species, but none had shown what humans did. The courage to risk everything without expecting reward, the tenacity to face certain death without flinching. And yet, here he was, alive. "Your species," she said softly, almost to herself, "survive not because of strength but because of spirit. You fight when others would flee. You endure when others would surrender. You protect when others would abandon. Why do you do this?" Aaron's eyes fluttered open. He looked up at her, pain and fatigue etched across his face, yet his gaze was steady. We fight because it's right, because someone has to protect the innocent even if it costs us our lives. That's what humans do." The queen studied him, silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Then you shall live, not because it is safe, not because it is allowed, but because your choice proves that even the smallest life can change the course of events." The healing continued. Time lost meaning. Minutes stretched into hours as the healer worked tirelessly. Aaron drifted in and out of consciousness, trapped between dreams and reality. He dreamed of Earth, the green forests, the oceans, the warmth of sunlight on his face. But there were also dreams of the princess, the fires of battle and the weight of responsibility. In each dream, he acted without fear, without hesitation. Humans had a peculiar way of surviving. They refused to accept impossibility. Outside the chamber, the queen's advisors murmured uneasily. Some argued that the human survival would destabilize the natural order. Others feared political backlash. Yet none dared speak against the queen herself. She had made her decision, and it was absolute. Finally, the human stirred. His eyes opened slowly, focusing on the golden figure before him. "Princess," he whispered. "She is safe," the queen replied. "Because of you, she will live. You have done more than anyone could have expected, but you must rest. Your body is fragile." Aaron tried to sit up, but the queen gently pressed him back onto the platform. "Rest," she said firmly. "You have earned it. Humans, fragile though you are, your spirit is remarkable. Remember that." A small smile touched his lips, the first since the attack. "I just wanted to help." "And you did," the queen replied. "Not because you had to, but because you chose to. That is the difference between your species and all others I have seen. Others fight for glory or survival. Humans fight for each other." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Aaron felt something stir inside him, a warmth, not just from the healing, but from the recognition of his species' worth. For centuries, humans had been underestimated, dismissed as weak and fragile. But in this alien world, in the eyes of the galaxy's most powerful ruler, their true value was seen: courage, compassion, and the willingness to sacrifice for others. Hours passed. The healer pulsed gently, repairing tissues, restoring strength, and stabilizing the human body. Slowly, Aaron's color returned and his breathing became steady. The queen watched, silent and thoughtful. She understood now that humans were different, not in power or technology, but in spirit. When he finally opened his eyes fully, Aaron found himself staring at the queen directly. I'm alive," he asked, disbelief and wonder mixing in his voice. "Yes," she said, "you are alive. Against all odds you have survived, and in doing so you have proven something rare. Something extraordinary. Life is not always given to the strongest or the fastest. Sometimes it is given to those who choose to protect it, regardless of cost." Aaron felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes. He had faced death, and yet here he was alive. Not because of strength, not because of luck, but because of the recognition of his courage, the very thing that defined humans. The queen's gaze softened. "Your people, your species, has a power few understand. Not power of weapons, not power of science, but the power of the will to endure, to protect, to choose courage when all seems lost. Remember this, human, remember it well." Aaron nodded, exhausted but profoundly changed. I will, your majesty. I will never forget." Outside the chamber, the stars shone silently, indifferent yet magnificent. But inside, the fragile human lay recovering, alive because of choice, courage, and recognition. The queen had broken her own laws, defied her own traditions, and given life to a being who had risked everything for another. And in doing so, she had glimpsed the true strength of humanity. Somewhere deep inside, Aaron understood what few others ever did. Survival was not merely about strength or skill. It was about heart, spirit, and the unbreakable will to protect those who could not protect themselves. And for the first time, in a galaxy that had underestimated humans for centuries, that spirit was finally seen and honored. The hum of the healing chamber had quieted, leaving only a gentle pulse of energy beneath the crystalline walls. Lieutenant Aaron Hale's eyes fluttered open, the world around him slowly coming into focus. The soft blue glow of the chamber bathed his face. His body no longer burned with pain, though weakness lingered in his muscles. Every movement reminded him of how close he had come to death. He tried to sit up, but the gentle weight of alien hands kept him on the platform. The queen's presence filled the chamber. She stood silently, observing, as though weighing his every thought. For centuries she had ruled with wisdom, strength, and a strict adherence to law. But humans, fragile, unpredictable, and mortal, were proving something entirely new. "You are awake," she said softly. Her voice carried no scorn, no judgment. Just curiosity and perhaps something that felt like admiration. "And yet you are still human, fragile, weak, and mortal." Aaron's lips twitched into a faint smile. "I feel stronger than I ever have, but I know I was not supposed to survive." "No," the queen said. "By every law of my people you should be dead. And yet here you are, alive, not because of strength, not because of fate, but because of will. You refuse to die." The words struck Aaron deep in his heart. Humans were never known for their power. Their victories were small, fleeting, and often overlooked. But the true strength of humanity was their ability to endure, to keep going when all seemed lost. And now, standing before the most powerful being in the galaxy, Aaron realized the universe had finally noticed. The princess entered the chamber then, her expression a mix of relief and awe. She approached cautiously, her hands trembling slightly. "Lieutenant Hale, you survived?" she asked. Aaron tried to lift his hand in a weak salute. "I had to make sure you were safe." That's all that mattered. Tears filled her eyes, but she smiled nonetheless. "I will never forget everything you did." The queen spoke again, her voice steady and firm. "This human has proven that your species possesses a rare trait. You endure not for glory, not for power, but for others. That choice, that courage is what has allowed him to survive." Aaron struggled to rise, but his strength was still limited. The queen stepped closer, her hands resting gently on the platform beside him. "It is not yet time for you to walk," she said. "Your body has healed, but your spirit must be nurtured. The final stages of recovery require patience and understanding." He nodded, grateful for her words. In the quiet of the chamber, Aaron allowed himself to reflect on the events that had brought him here. He remembered the roar of exploding ships, the fire of alien plasma around him, and the terrified eyes of the princess. Every step, every choice, had led him to defy death. And now he was alive, not as a soldier, not as a pawn in a galactic war, but as a symbol of humanity's unyielding will. Days passed. Aaron's body regained strength, his muscles and bones fully healed, but the queen did not release him. Instead, she observed him, studied him, and engaged him in long conversations about Earth, human culture, and the human capacity for endurance. She asked about family, dreams, fears, and the countless small acts of courage that defined his species. "You endure because you choose to," she said one evening. "Your species is fragile, yet the impact of your choices ripples across worlds. Why do you not give up?" Aaron thought carefully. "Because giving up means letting others suffer. Humans, we protect each other, even when it costs us our lives. We fight for the small victories, the people who cannot fight for themselves. That's what keeps us going." The queen listened intently. For centuries, her people had relied on strength, technology, and law to maintain order. Yet this human, small and mortal, had demonstrated something far more powerful, a spirit that could not be broken. One day, as Aaron practiced walking under careful supervision, the queen revealed something extraordinary. "I have given much of my own life energy to sustain you. The process that healed you was dangerous, not only to you but to me. I have shortened my own time on this world to ensure your survival." Aaron froze. "You did that for me, for a human?" "Yes," she replied simply. "Because you acted not out of self-interest but for the protection of another. That act is rare in the galaxy, and it deserves recognition, not punishment." Aaron struggled to find words. No human had ever been recognized in such a way by an alien species, much less by their queen. All he could manage was a simple, heartfelt, "Thank you, I don't know what to say." "Do not thank me," she said. "Let your actions speak. That is enough." The princess approached, her hand resting lightly on Aaron's arm. "Your people, they are remarkable," she said softly. "I have seen soldiers, scientists, explorers, and yet you, Lieutenant Hale, have shown a courage that transcends them all. The galaxy should know your name." Aaron shook his head. "I was just doing what anyone would do." The Queen's eyes softened. "No, most would not. Most would flee, abandon, or surrender. You humans are different. You fight not because it is required, but because it is right. That is the power your species holds." As the days turned into weeks, Aaron recovered fully. The princess resumed her duties, but she often lingered to speak with him, to learn about Earth, and to understand the human perspective on bravery and sacrifice. The Queen, meanwhile, began consulting with him on diplomatic matters. She saw that humans were not only courageous but adaptable, clever, and most importantly, capable of empathy in ways that other species rarely exhibited. Aaron began to understand something profound. His survival was not just personal, it was symbolic. Humanity had earned its place in the galaxy, not by strength, not by numbers, but by their courage, persistence, and moral clarity. One human, fragile and mortal, had reminded the galaxy that even the smallest and weakest could change the course of events. One evening, as Aaron sat in the chamber looking out at the alien world, the Queen approached. "Your recovery is complete," she said. "Soon you must return to your people, but before you do, understand this: the galaxy will watch your species now. Your actions have set a precedent. Where there is courage, there is hope. Where humans stand, others will follow." Aaron's heart swelled with a mixture of pride and humility. He had survived impossible odds, healed beyond expectation, and witnessed the recognition of his species in the eyes of a powerful alien queen. Yet he remained human, fragile, mortal, and unassuming. "I understand," he said quietly. "I will do my best for my people and for those who cannot protect themselves." The Queen nodded. "That is enough. Go, Lieutenant Hale. Show the galaxy what humans can do." As he prepared to leave, the princess handed him a small token, a crystalline charm from her world. "So that you always remember," she said softly, "that courage, compassion, and choice are stronger than any weapon." Aaron held it tightly, a reminder of the journey, the sacrifice, and the unbreakable spirit of humanity. He knew that life in the galaxy would never be the same again. Humans had shown that courage and selflessness could defy expectation, even challenge the laws of the most powerful species. And somewhere, high above, the Queen watched as he left, her heart heavy with both pride and the subtle ache of her own sacrifice. Humanity had survived, and in doing so, had changed her perception, and perhaps the course of the galaxy itself. The stars outside shimmered like silent witnesses. And as Aaron Hale returned to his ship, ready to journey back to his people, one truth became clear. Humanity's strength was not in muscle or technology, but in the heart, the will, and the courage to stand for others, even against death itself. Somewhere in the vastness of space, a human had refused to die, and the galaxy would never forget. The stars stretched endlessly across the viewport as Lieutenant Aaron Hale sat in the pilot's chair of the repaired human shuttle. The engines hummed smoothly beneath him, a gentle reminder that he was alive, fully healed, and returning home. He had survived what no human, or most beings in the galaxy, had any right to survive. And now, as the shuttle glided toward the edge of the Andarian system, he carried more than just his own life. He carried a symbol of humanity itself. Behind him, memories of the past weeks replayed like vivid scenes from a dream. The crash, the chaos, the terrified princess, and the moments he had faced certain death, all of it came back in sharp emotional clarity. But more than the dangers, what lingered was the recognition of his species' true worth. He had been fragile, mortal, and seemingly powerless. Yet the Queen had seen the unbreakable strength that lay inside humans, the courage to endure, the willingness to protect, and the resolve to act for others without hesitation. As the shuttle left Andarian space, Aaron reflected on the Queen's words. Where humans stand, others will follow. It was not simply an expression of admiration. It was a declaration, a promise that the galaxy would now view humans not as weak or insignificant, but as a species capable of shaping the course of events through courage and principle. Aaron thought of the princess. She had been more than a passenger to save. She had become a witness to what humans could do. Her trust in him and her own survival because of his choices made him realize that every action, no matter how small it seemed, could create ripples across worlds. The shuttle exited the Andarian system and entered the vast expanse of deep space. Aaron adjusted the controls, setting course for Earth, and allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. For centuries, humans had been underestimated. Other species had dismissed them as weak, unpredictable, and too fragile to endure in the galactic arena. And yet, despite their limitations, humans had survived and thrived because of something intangible, their spirit. When the shuttle entered subspace, Aaron felt a gentle vibration through the floor. It was a signal from the Andarian Queen herself. The crystal communicator lit up, projecting her golden form in the center of the cabin. "You are returning home," she said, her voice calm yet filled with weight. "Know that your actions have altered the perception of your species. You are no longer merely observers in this galaxy. You are participants, and your presence is now recognized as vital." Aaron inclined his head respectfully. "Thank you, Your Majesty. My people, they will hear your words. They will understand." "Good," she said. "I have also made a decree. Any species that demonstrates courage, selflessness, and protection of others shall not be ignored or abandoned in times of need. Your species has earned that recognition. Your deeds have set a precedent." Aaron's heart pounded. Recognition from the Queen meant more than safety, more than honor. It meant that humans had earned a place in the galaxy's network of civilizations. They were no longer fragile outsiders. They were allies, dependable and valued. As the transmission ended, Aaron looked at the stars with renewed determination. His journey was not over. Humanity had survived because of courage, but now it was up to them to live up to the trust and recognition they had earned. When the shuttle finally entered orbit around Earth, Aaron could see the familiar blue oceans and green continents below. The planet looked peaceful, almost unaware of the cosmic events unfolding beyond its atmosphere. He adjusted the landing protocols and prepared for descent. This homecoming was quiet, personal, yet monumental. Humanity had survived the impossible, and now it had the opportunity to grow stronger, not through aggression or conquest, but through courage, integrity, and cooperation. Upon landing, Aaron was greeted not with parades or fanfare, but with the quiet gratitude of his comrades. They had heard of his mission, the dangers, and the miraculous survival. In their eyes, he saw respect, admiration, and something else, a spark of hope that humans could achieve the extraordinary. Aaron walked among them, unassuming, humble, yet fully aware of what had transpired. He had faced death, witnessed alien technology beyond comprehension, and survived because of his unyielding will. But it was not just his will that mattered. It was the recognition that even fragile humans could influence the galaxy, change perceptions, and inspire others. Weeks passed, and news of his mission spread across Earth's colonies. Humans, once considered minor players in galactic politics, were now acknowledged as brave, dependable, and capable of extraordinary deeds. Diplomatic channels opened with alien species who had once doubted them. Opportunities for alliances, scientific collaboration, and shared exploration emerged. And at the center of this change was a single human who had refused to die for the sake of another. Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, the Andarian Queen observed quietly. The healing process had cost her. A portion of her own vitality had been transferred to Aaron to save him, yet she did not regret it. She had glimpsed humanity's essence. Fragile, yes, but unbreakable in spirit. And in this fragile, unbreakable spirit, she saw hope for a future where cooperation, courage, and selflessness could shape the galaxy. Aaron maintained correspondence with the princess, sharing insights about Earth, the human perspective on courage, and the lessons learned from their ordeal. She admired humans not for their technology, nor for their military prowess, but for their ability to act morally and selflessly even in the face of danger. The bond between species deepened, a symbol of hope that stretched across light years. One evening, as Aaron stood on a hill overlooking the Earth's oceans, the crystalline charm the princess had given him glinted in the sunlight. It reminded him of what he had done, what he had survived, and the responsibility he now carried. Humanity had proven itself to the galaxy, but it was only the beginning. He thought of the Queen's words, "Where humans stand, others will follow." He understood them now fully. Humanity had the capacity to inspire, to lead not by force but by example. Their courage was contagious, their selflessness noticeable, and their resilience undeniable. Aaron returned to his duties, not as a hero seeking glory, but as a human committed to protecting others, guiding his people, and showing the galaxy the true power of their species. The recognition by the Andarian Queen had opened doors, yes, but it also placed a responsibility on humanity to live up to the ideals that had saved the princess, and in turn, transformed their role in the galaxy. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the oceans in gold and red, Aaron looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, across light years of space, the Andarian Queen watched and the princess thrived. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had earned its place within it. In quiet moments, Aaron would remember the crash, the fire, the danger, and the choice he made. And he would remember something even more important, that even the smallest, weakest, and most fragile beings could stand tall, make the impossible possible, and change the course of the universe. The galaxy had learned to ask a new question whenever hope seemed lost, or a challenge seemed insurmountable. Where are the humans? And somewhere, smiling quietly to himself, Lieutenant Aaron Hale understood the answer. Humanity was there, standing, enduring, and proving that courage and will were the greatest powers of all. For fragile though they might seem, humans were unbreakable.